Oh, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So this is a video you guys voted for on my Twitter and
Top 5 hardest junglers. I wonder what Redmercy would think if he saw his video.
wow, Pants, what a great video. Great job yet again. Liked, favorited, and subbed, smiley face.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Pants R Dragon, and today we'll be doing a little video on the top 5 hardest junglers inspired by Redmercy. So the way this video is going to work is I'm going to be picking the 5 hardest champions based on some priorities. And the biggest priority we have is that the champion must be hard to master with the mechanics and strategy behind a champion. So what hard to master means is the knowledge of knowing what to do in a certain scenario. For instance, if a champion has a lot of combos, you need to know which combo to use in certain scenarios. That's why a champion like Warwick is considered very easy to master, since playing as him is so linear, aka straightforward, while a champion like Azir is considered really hard to master as he's very dynamic, aka a lot of things he can possibly do. And the next priority we have is how hard the champion is to learn. This means playing your first game with the champion up until you understand how his abilities works and what you can do with it, and what the champion is capable of doing, while also successfully executing the combos. Someone that was really hard for me to learn, that's not a jungler, so we don't spoil this list, is Gangplank. It took me a while to understand how his barrel mechanic worked and how I could chain the barrels efficiently, but I'm not even a good Gangplank even after like 20 games. I'd say I need a little bit more games with him to fully understand how I can manipulate his barrels. The next priority we're going to take in is how good a champion main is compared to the average player. So let's say you main Lucian jungle. Okay, that's a horrible example, but you know there are people out there who have a name for themselves for, say, being a Yasuo main. They probably know some tricks that the average player does not and know what to do in specific scenarios. And finally, our last priority, the decision making needed with a champion to be successful. This is like the strategy behind the champion and how well you use the strategy. So like a good example of this would be Twisted Fate. Him using his ultimate doesn't really take a lot of mechanics to use, but it definitely takes a lot of strategy and decision making. So yeah, that would be the 4 priorities in this video that I will be considering. And before we start this video, big shout out to my boys from Pro Guides for sponsoring this video. Definitely try and check them out for all your ranked game needs. And so with all that being said, let's get started. Alright, so first up at number 5 is gonna be Elise. So this champion is actually kinda hard to learn at first. She's a champion who has 8 abilities, and you gotta know how to use each one of them. And then you gotta know the cooldown between her spider form and human form, cause you'll be constantly switching forms. So a person who's been playing Elise for a while will know that, since, you know, Elise's cooldowns on her other form might be up again. A player playing her first might be like, shouldn't I just stay in spider form when I'm in melee? You know, that sort of thing. And the repel has many usages of it. It can be used to avoid spells, it can be used to gap close, it can be even used as an escape. And then for ganks, do you go in human form, do I start in spider form? The player playing her for like the first few times doesn't know that. But the answer to that is actually very situational on when she goes into ganks in spider form and when she goes into ganks into human form. And once you got, you know, those mechanics down, everything will start becoming more natural with her. Also, I forgot to mention this, but tanking with spiders in the jungle is kinda hard at first, since you gotta get used to the AI, but it teaches you a lot of the core mechanics of how the jungle works. And then finally, the item build is somewhat complicated. Do I build tank Elise? Do I build AP Elise? You know, I think AP Runic Echoes is the best, but I don't see a scenario where I would ever build Cinderhulk Elise unless I was like 0 and 5. Nevertheless, she's actually one of the hardest champions to play in the jungle, since she is really hard to learn at first, but there's no such thing as an Elise master. All Elises tend to be around the same level once they understand the champion. Alright, so next up is gonna be Nidalee. So she's quite hard to master and somewhat hard to learn, as she's kinda like Elise, having 8 abilities and 2 forms. Unlike Elise, she is reliant on her spears constantly landing, as her Cougar form plays around her hunt passive. and she's also constantly shifting between forms. But Elise's spider mode is more of a melee form too. With Nidalee, she just uses her cooldowns and then switches back to human form. Even though I've played Nidalee a fair bit, I still screw up in certain situations with my skill combo. For instance, Nidalees who hit their spears and then switch to Cougar form won't immediately pounce if they're already in melee range, and will just wait until the enemy flashes away. I don't do this because, well, actually I've never thought of it till now, so maybe I'll start doing it. And there's probably a bunch of other things that good Nidalee players do that the average player doesn't. The next thing I want to talk about is decision making when going in as a Cougar. So in skirmishes you go in when you can kill someone, but in teamfights it gets a little bit more tricky. You gotta know when you can go in and not get blown up. Also, having the pressure of trying to land those spears on priority targets can be a little hard. And it's definitely something I struggle with Nidalee, because actually I just throw my spear and pray to God to hit someone. And then her level 1 jungle clear, where she has to set up traps and setting up some high speed clear. Me personally, I don't understand it, and I've seen other people do it, but for the average player, they'll probably just start Q and try and keep it simple, I think. But overall, learning her, it's kind of like Elise. Mastering her is much harder because, unlike Elise, Nidalee is more punishable when she misses her spears. Elise's cocoon is only utility, so you're not losing any damage and you can still constantly deal damage with her. Of course, the cocoon is an important spell to hit. It is not as important as Nidalee's spear. This is actually one of the reasons why I don't play her in ranked, because I feel that other players in my elo are way better at Nidalee than I would ever be. I would learn her because she's kind of meta right now, but I just can't do it, to be honest. Next up, we have Bitch Cat. So Rengar is the most, he's one of those champions I don't understand fully. Like, the combos are kind of hard to execute. There's that mid-air Ebola Tiamat combo, but usually when I do that, I spam my keyboard and actually tend to miss my roar on enemy champions and actually use it way too soon. He's also got like 2 auto attack resets, and the Ebola is actually a pretty slow skill shot, so it can be hard to land. But that's not the only reason why I think Rengar is a hard champion to master. I think bush usage is a very hard mechanic to abuse and is a really good one to outplay enemies. Like, you ever see those Rengar mains in the top lane, hoppity hop in those bushes and just destroy the enemy laner? Hey, that can be useful for the jungle too, when you're like ganking in top lane or bottom lane. Now, one thing for sure that's really hard to do when playing Rengar is knowing his limits. So ever seen a Rengar throw a game by going in 1v5? That's probably the Rengar not knowing his limits. Like, myself, I don't know what I'm capable of. I don't know what I can do or can't do. I just press R, hope for the best, and usually it works out for the best. You see those deaths up there? Those were all moments where I went past my limits and got a little pooped on. But of course, you won't know your limits until you've tried everything with Rengar. And yeah, just having decision making with his ultimate has a lot of strategy behind it. Well, at least in early game, because if you do mess up your ultimate and do not get a kill, it is very punishing on Rengar and sets him back really far since his ultimate is on a very long cooldown. And Rengar who can't get kills when he's level 6 will be a very useless Rengar. But that's why you see Rengar main specifically for that reason, because they know how to get kills with Rengar. The next thing with Rengar is the build order can be really weird. Even the rune page can be really weird too. I've seen some Rengars take armor penetration, I've seen attack speed quints, I've seen all AD. I don't know what is the best rune page, but these are all different rune pages coming from different Rengar mains. And build order is kind of weird too. Some people skip the warrior, get Tiamat. I don't think that happens anymore since Tiamat got changed, but still it's just kind of confusing. Rengar is also a snowball reliant champion, so you need to know how to play the early game. The jungle route is also weird too. Do I go for ganks? Do I go for a full clear until level 6? Do I cheese the enemy at level 2? It's really varied for each person. But I do think Rengar is a harder champion to master and to play efficiently than Nidalee for all these reasons. Next up, we have SHACO. You probably didn't see this one coming. Maybe you did, I don't really know. But SHACO is a champion that is fucking hard to understand. Like, first time you play as champion, alright, I know how to put boxes down on my first camp. Where do I go next? Do I go cheese the enemy? Do I go to my next buff? I'm literally like bronze 5 whenever I play this champion, and half the time I don't know what I'm doing with him. I can look at a guide and understand him a little bit more, but usually I can figure out a champion after like 3 or 4 games. This champion, well, I mean, he's been out since season 1 and I still can't figure him out. Like, you have to have a different mindset when you play this champion. He's not an ordinary champion at all. The itemization is kind of confusing. Yeah, we know AD is better, but he's also got AP ratios, so what's the better build? Obviously, it's probably AD. But like, every item seems really good on him. There could be tank SHACO, there could be full AD SHACO, there could be full AP SHACO, but no one really knows what the best item build on him is. Like, I've seen Sorcerer Shoes on AD SHACO because of his E, R, and W doing magic damage, and you know, they just want to assassinate people. But also, every SHACO main's rune pages are different. It's almost similar to how I explained Rengar, but you know, SHACO has a variety of builds he can go and be successful with. Then we have the usage of Hallucination, which in my opinion is the most fun thing about his kit. Who doesn't like having a summoned pet, right? But his ultimate can be used to like juke some spells, use it to trick people, use it as a bait. There's so many ways you can use his ultimate, it's fantastic. But that means it also can be very confusing on how to use a clone. He's also very snowball reliant or cheese reliant. If you don't get that early game kill or whatever, you will feel incredibly useless and feel like you suck at the champion. But then you see other SHACO players being good at him, and you're like, why can't I be like him? And then after a while, you just kind of give up on the champion and play something else. You also have to know the limits of SHACO. Kinda similar to Rengar, but let's be honest here, haven't you ever, gone in on someone and been like, I can kill this guy, and then all of a sudden you kind of die? Yeah, it's because we didn't have a great understanding of SHACO's limits. So I'd say he's not as hard mechanically as Rengar to play, but he is a champion who is fucking hard to understand, to at least play him efficiently. And even though that was the second priority on this list, it's emphasized heavily on SHACO. And finally, coming at number 1, the hardest champion to master and play is Lee Sin. A champion that has the most combos in the game used for different scenarios. Like, war jumping, then insecting someone, war jumping, then flashing, and then insecting someone. Queuing first, there's a lot of combos you can do with this champion. He's also a champion who has 7 abilities, kinda similar to Elise in Italy, and you gotta know what each ability is capable of. His ultimate can be used various ways: to kick people into your team, to kick people away from your team, to set up for your next Q to land, to interrupt someone, or as an execution skill. It's a unique ability that can be used in various ways. Next up, he has 2 dashes. This means a person has a lot of different ways to go onto an enemy. And when you add flash to the formula, there's so many ways to approach a certain situation with Lee Sin. But there's always going to be the best way to approach a situation, and it's up to the player to figure that out. Also, his W can be used defensively or offensively, similar to his R, so again, a little bit more thinking. And he also has a mechanic, ward jumping. This mechanic on any champion definitely increases the skill cap, as it adds another button to the combo. I myself do screw up the ward jump a fair bit, especially in fast-paced scenarios like team fights. And yeah, that's another thing, executing a combo is one of the most difficult things to do on Lee Sin. Also, being an energy user means you are limited to what abilities you can use in an instance. So you gotta, manage your energy and see how much you have before going in or something. And then there's various item builds for Lee Sin. You can go full AD, or AD at first and then tank, or just straight up tank. But you as a player must know which item build to go in certain games. And yeah, Lee Sin is just a very complex champion, but this is also why he's the most fun champion in the game, because you can do so many things with him. And since we, the average player, will never stop having fun with him because we'll always discover something new. And yeah, honestly, I hope Riot makes a champion like Lee Sin again, as trying to understand a high skill cap champion is definitely a fun challenge. Alright, so that is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. In my last video, I asked you guys, what is your go-to top laner? And here are some of my favorite comments. For this video, I want you guys to comment below on what champion you struggle playing as. The champion I struggle with the most would be SHACO, but another champion that I actually struggle with is Sona. I don't know, for some reason I just can't hit her ultimates at all, just because there's a delay, and I'm really squishy in lanes, so I don't really know that and I get caught out and die. Plus I also just suck at mana management with her. But yeah, she's actually one of the odd champions to struggle with, since she's actually pretty easy to play. But I guess her playstyle doesn't really fit mine. But yeah, comment below on a champion that you struggle with. And if you did like this video, make sure to leave a like and to subscribe for future videos like this. And also if you want, you can subscribe to Pro Guides. And I am Pencil Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright, so there were like 2 versions of this, and it was like super funny to me when he sent me the clips. So like, here are the other 2 versions. Check it out. That's my first time. This is my first time looking at it, so check it out. I don't know what Redmercy would think if he saw this video.
Damn, Pants, back at it again with the white vans. Wow, Pants, what a great video. Great job yet again. 10 out of 10 would watch again. Smiley face.
That's one out of two versions, but the first version was the best.